right, thank you for being here today. First and foremost, want to thank all our fans that made the trip out there in support of our football program. It was awesome coming out of the tunnel and seeing everybody out there. They certainly provided us with plenty of inspiration, and certainly we didn't come out with the outcome that we wanted. We certainly wanted to win the football game, and at the same time, well, we were able to see a lot of the things that we worked on in the course of the offseason were on display. We were able to show our physicality, our improved ability to make plays in certain situations. But all in all, we did not get the result we wanted. Some good things to build upon, and our players feel that way. They feel strongly we could have a real good football team with all our goals still sitting in front of us. So certainly looking forward to the opportunity to get back to Autzen Stadium in front of our fans, our home crowd, and get back to playing this Saturday. And on the injury front, a couple guys I think you guys noticed in the game. Jawan had a late tweak in the week. We thought he would get a little bit better by game time. Obviously, he did not. That's why he did not play. And he's still listed on the depth chart, so hopefully he heals up by the time the game rolls around. We'll see. It'll be a day-to-day thing. Adrian Jackson also suffered an injury late in the week. He's a little bit more serious. He has a foot injury, and he will be missing the entire season. So aside from that, Cam is not ready yet. He'll be day-to-day. You still know about the same guys. You know about Micah Pittman, about Brendan Schooler and whatnot. And I think that summarizes the injured guys right there. With that being said, open to questions.
All right, there, Ryan.
Mario, after having some time to dissect the Auburn game, do you feel like it was one you kind of gave away, or do you feel like Auburn made adjustments and they kind of took it from you?
I think when both teams play that hard, you have to give credit to the other team. I think it's an insult to football when you just say you kind of gave something away. You know, we played hard, and for a good chunk of that game, we had our opportunities to close it out. But when you don't, you just look yourself in the mirror and you take it as a team, as coaches and as players. And that's what our team has done. There is no finger pointing. I think we felt that as the game started rolling, that we're prepared, that we're making the right plays, making the right decisions, and certainly doing a lot of good stuff. We didn't finish the game.
On the left, Eric.
New depth chart has Spencer Webb and David Davis, both at wide receiver. David's also at defensive back. Kind of talk about the decision, and is David going to be kind of juggling time between both sides of the ball? You know,
David has been a very unselfish player. He will spend his time right now solely at wide receiver due to the amount of guys we have out. Because JR is done for the year. Micah won't be back till whenever they deem he is ready to play again. Same thing with Schooler, but we have a good amount of injuries, so he's going to spend time at wide. Spencer Webb, you saw he did get some playing time at wide receiver, made the most of his opportunity, so we'll expand his role.
All right, Julie.
Coach, what are some of the things you do in practice to kind of address maybe some of the missed red zone opportunities? Anything specific or?
Well, we felt we had a good plan down there. I think some of the things that we didn't execute on, we just got to do a better job coaching the fundamentals and routine plays that we're capable of doing. But again, we're not pointing fingers at anyone, any player or whatnot when we don't make it happen, and when we don't capitalize on an opportunity like that against a good football team, you're going to feel the consequences, and we felt that when we didn't capitalize.
Right front, Ryan.
Mario, back on Spencer Webb, obviously there was a lot of talk in camp about the depth at the top of the depth chart, and obviously Patrick Herbert. But there wasn't a lot of talk about Spencer. When did you realize that he was ready to use that body he has in a big game situation like that?
Well, he played a lot of wide receiver, or I would say a lot of detached tight end, formational stuff in high school. So he's very natural out in space. And when the opportunity arose with all the injuries that transpired, we felt, you know what, let's give this thing a look. As well as Patrick Herbert. Patrick Herbert's another guy. These are two big bodies that are athletic, very natural route runners, catch the ball really well. So both those guys will continue to grow in these particular situations and positions to see if they could help us out more.
James, from middle.
Mario, to go to the sheet you've referenced regarding time and time management and whatnot, it certainly has been quite scrutinized. Can you delve into a little bit of where the origins of it came from? Did you get this from somebody? Did you come up with it? Who's kind of responsible for it, and how did it come about?
In terms of
who authored this? Where did you get this as a guiding document?
Well, I think the document you're referring to is the standard one that I believe every single coach has, is how much time can you burn off the clock when you have so many timeouts, when the ball is in play after a first down, when it's in play after a timeout or after an injury or whatnot. In reference to the game, in terms of what transpired in the course of the game, we snapped one ball, I believe, at 11 seconds, the play clock, then one at 5 or 4, and the other one at 4. So we're playing football up until the 4-minute mark, and that's when we slowed it down. So we didn't use any extraordinary time off the clock unnecessarily. But again, I guess that's the best answer I could give you in terms of what we did and what we have in terms of a guideline for a sheet as it relates to clock management.
Left, Rob.
Got to look at a couple of your kickers. Where do things stand with those guys going into week 2?
Well, we'll have to see. We'll leave it open to competition and see where it falls.
Coach, as far as the things goes with Dallas and kind of that going up back and forth, was that due to him being injured, or was that due to his play, or what was that?
Dallas played a good football game. The offensive linemen overall, defense line as well, they played tough. They played physical. I think they've been recognized for that against a very good front, both sides of the ball. But Stephen Jones earned playing time, and we were going to play him regardless. He was going to be part of the rotation, and proud of the way both those guys played and the guys in general.
No, James.
It's a natural follow-up on Steven. With him ahead of both Forsyth and Salah, who was back up on paper. All right, credit to Steven, certainly he played before, but is that an indicator of your thought process on Salah? And that obviously he was a JUCO. Now you've got 2, maybe even 3 guys beyond the starters who would play at guard. Are you thinking longer term with Salah in particular?
I wouldn't put that on him right now. The way he's improving, as well as he has played, we're going to continue to develop him. Salah's last 2.5, 3 weeks have been very impressive, to the point where he is part of the mix in that competition. Now, Stephen is a little bit ahead, but we have a tremendous amount of faith in both those guys, Alex and in Salah. We think both those guys are on their way to being great football players.
On the left, Eric.
EJ Johnson was on last week's depth chart. I don't think he made an appearance in the game. I was wondering if there was a reason behind that.
No, there was none. We need to play him more. He had a really good couple of weeks leading into the game, and we got to get him on the field. He's a good football player. He's done the right thing, so he'll see more playing time.
Here on the right.
Coach, as far as going back to the running game, is that something that you're going to want to do throughout the whole game this time, and kind of focus on that power running throughout the whole entire game, and kind of not just in the first 2 quarters?
Well, we were running the ball pretty effectively in the first half. And in the second half, we actually have 16 called runs. Now, because of what Auburn does, they play a lot of the post safety, a lot of the man-free defense. They like to outnumber you in the box. And because we have a good quarterback, a lot of the stuff have routes attached to them. The RPO game, right? Or trouble attachments. So what happens is on those 16 called runs, 11 of them, I believe, 10 or 11 of them had RPO attachments to them, with 9 of them being spit out there, being thrown. So it kind of skews your numbers. You end up running the ball 7 times on 16 called runs due to what the defense was showing. Now, 2 things there. Number one, of course, you want to run the ball as much as you can. At the same time, you have a quarterback that's one of the better players in college football. You want him to be aggressive. If he sees a leverage throw, if he sees a matchup, you want him to take it. So I think it skewed the numbers a little bit. But if you keep moving the chains, it all balances out. We have to do just a better job moving the chains. We had our opportunities. We didn't come up. We came up a little bit short on some of them, and certainly had chances to do some things to put ourselves in a good situation in the game.
On the left, Rob.
I think you played 8 freshmen. Just thoughts on how those guys handled themselves. Anybody jump out to you in particular as you were reviewing the game?
They all did. They all did a really, really good job. Mace Funa, Kayvon showed a lot of really just impressive play. I could go on and on about those guys, but I think we'll play even more. A couple more guys deserve to play. A lot of guys played on special teams as well. Certainly happy with their progress.
Brian.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like there was one play on defense where you only had 10 guys out there, but you were playing a lot of guys. You mentioned the emphasis on communication when you hired Andy. Overall, how did you think that went with the communication for his first
those
game?
guys played well. They were very organized, very detailed. They caught us in tempo one time, and that'll get you if you're trying to substitute, especially when you're so far away from your bench, and you're trying to get that thing communicated, and guys are coming in and guys are coming out. So credit to them. They caught us in tempo there.
James, Milt.
As you revisit the timeouts as well, Mario, and I mean all of them, from the first play to the one before, what was the first one of the second half? A decision to make, certainly, but ultimately you chose to do it before trying to step back 5 yards. It might have made a difference on Blake's punt that did go into the end zone. And then obviously the two back-to-back. Would you want any of those back? I would think any of them throughout the game.
Well, you want to save your timeouts if you can, but if you're not comfortable with some, I'm not going to hesitate to use them. At the end, the two successive timeouts, when the play clock started and the personnel change was taking place, by the time we got to the line of scrimmage, we were pretty close to the shot clock going off, so use one. And then when we got everything organized, I was a little bit not clear on whether Justin could go in or not, but it didn't have an effect on the shot clock. We still had plenty of time. It was 24, 23 seconds. Tyler was out there. I did not feel comfortable in that we were completely in tune with what the play needed to be in terms of our players, personnel, assignments. So I want to make sure if we're going to go for 4th and 1, that we're all going to be on the same page and give it our best shot. That's why I use the timeout.
Eric, you're on the left.
Let's take a look at Nevada. Obviously, they had an upset. I guess you would call it an upset over Purdue over the weekend. And what do you see on them, and kind of how difficult is it transitioning from a tough loss to another tough game at home?
Well, they're a really good football team, and certainly their quarterback does not play like a freshman. He's a big guy. He's got a lot of length outside and athleticism. Running backs are powerful guys. They look a lot like CJ, very compact, low center of gravity. Offensive line does a great job working together up front. They get some good push. They protect them really well. Slots do a great job finding some space. And, they do a lot of stuff with their 11 personnel that in the run game that allows them to run the ball effectively. Power running game, counter, split zone, all that stuff. They'll jump into their 4 wide stuff and do a lot of the air raid stuff. That's what makes them difficult to defend. So not as much tempo, but personnel changes certainly allow them to do a bunch of different things, almost 2 different personalities as they use those. And then defensively, they're very different than what we're used to facing, more of a 3-down stack linebacker alignment and configuration with multiple coverages, very aggressive safeties. Certainly, they've created a lot of turnovers and put themselves in positions to win, a good amount of football games the last couple of years. But they play fast. That's what really sticks out. They're fast. They're physical. They know exactly what they're doing. They're very organized. They're well coached. Really good football team.
James.
How much does Andy's familiarity with Nevada, and obviously doing quite well in shutting down their running back while at Boise State, how much has that already come into prep? Because generally the first 3 games of what you guys are prepping for in the offseason. So
sure. It's part of off-season study. His familiarity with that certainly is helpful. But also recognizing that those guys, they have their wrinkles year to year, and they've done a good job. Obviously did a great job in game 1, finding a way to win that football game.
All right, Ryan.
One of the key leaders you guys had to replace was Ugo. Obviously, how big a deal is it for you guys to have, Javon step in there and return punts the way he did and, handle his safety spot the way he did?
Yeah, he's special. Now, he certainly proved that if not the best, one of the best players on the field. And, if he plays like that, he will very quickly make himself one of the more prominent players in college football. So very dangerous. He'll kid you that he's actually a better wide receiver than he is a DB, but we're not going to make that move anytime soon. We're going to keep him right there. But actually really dangerous as a punt returner. Certainly a good decision maker first and foremost, because that's the key to that position. A good decision and then securing the football. What makes him dangerous is the obvious. Once he does have the football, he knows what to do with it. He set up the returns extremely well. In fact, the long return was on what you call a punt safe look, where the defense is out there making sure there are no fakes to play the ball safely against any fakes. And those guys set up a nice wall for him, did a great job. So very, very, very fired up about his play and what he brings to the table.
James. Milt.
Obviously, you've talked about your brother and being able to play with him in your career. Justin's talked about it. You've got a matchup here where Panay could be asked to block his brother here at certain points in this game. What do you think of Gabe and what he brings to the field and how effective he is, and what that might mean to Panay in this game?
Well, he's the leader of that defense. He was the one that makes that defense go, and I'm sure when that number is called when he has to block him, and when Gabe has to take on a block. I'm sure they're not going to play patty cake. Those two guys have probably had more physical, violent wrestling matches in their household that they're going to have on Saturday. So I don't think either one of them is going to flinch or hesitate. Again, great family. Besides being great football players and tremendous competitors, and I'm sure it's going to be a pretty emotional day for the family as they watch them both compete against each other.